Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? My name is Denonu, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And this is going to be a video that's a little bit different. Normally I talk about stuff that interests me, like video games, comics, comic book movies, that kind of sort of thing. But this one's going to be a little bit different. I don't really know what spurred this topic here, but I figured I'd give my thoughts on a few things here and just, I guess, kind of explain, some things that life has taught me personally about these kind of sort of things here. And we're going to be talking about mainly people and just, I guess you could say mental illness and that kind of sort of stuff. Because I've seen a few people talking about it since the that Florida school shooting that I don't know if it was a few weeks now, but I'm guessing it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And a few people are talking about it here, and I've been seeing a couple articles about people doing some messed up things when it comes to YouTube and just dealing with, or certain people dealing with problems that pop up in their life and they don't know how to really deal with it. And I guess even besides that, you got a lot of the stuff that other people do online, or really that the mass majority does, either whether that's doxing other people, being super negative to other people and YouTubers, people who have weird social issues that I guess by staying online and going on the internet only just makes it worse because you're not confronting those issues, things like that. So I'm gonna try to keep this short. I know I always say that and the video ends up being 45 minutes, but I'm gonna try to keep an eye on the clock here. So we're gonna try to, if I do ramble on, I'm gonna probably try to stop myself around like 15-20 minutes at most. So all right, now usually when it comes to most people, and this is just me just talking about my own personal life experience. I'm 35 years old, I think, or maybe 34, going into 35 this year. I don't know. I don't keep track of it all that much. No, I'm old as hell to be on YouTube though. But when it comes to what I think most people is, I mean, I think I'm a level-headed person. Probably way more than most. I don't know particularly why that is. I really don't. It's just the way I've always been. During the course of my life, I'm not a religious person. My family wasn't religious, or at least my core family, meaning my brothers, my mom, my dad, we all weren't religious. Because my parents, they had, religious families and things like that. And I guess they saw some of the BS in organized religion. Not necessarily meaning faith. So I don't mean like your belief in God or whichever God you believe in. I don't mean that. I mean organized religion, meaning what people going to church, all of that typical stuff, because that's where you can get that faith misconstrued or changed, or get your own various interpretation of it, but that's not your interpretation, that's what they're telling you. So my parents didn't believe in none of that. What they did was they didn't want their beliefs to rub off on us. So what my dad did when we was younger, my dad was somebody who, he kind of is that cornerstone to my manhood. When we were coming up, my dad was a very, not necessarily an intellectual person himself, but he was like that kind of person who likes to read a lot of different stuff. And he's been through tons of traumatic life experiences, which I'm not going to get into because that would be like 6 hours worth of videos. My dad's been through a lot. He's like 70, pushing 70 some years old, but he's been through tons of shit. And when he had kids, me and my brothers and everything, he pretty much knew what direction he didn't want our lives to take. He'd been through a lot of shit. a lot of things in his life were fucked up. So he was like, all right, I'm gonna make sure my kids aren't gonna be fucked up. They're gonna live better lives than me, as most parents should, And so what he did when we were coming up as kids, everything was like a weird, looking back on it, everything was a weird psychological experiment. Makes my dad sound like he's some kind of supervillain mastermind, but everything has its purpose, YouTube, I swear. This isn't going to end with me hating my dad or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I'm one of those people who I can honestly say I don't hate nothing about my family, my upbringing, nothing at all. There is nothing. I don't have no quirks with my parents. I'm like, oh, I hate when my dad used to do this, or I hate when my parents did this to me because I wanted to do something different. No, fuck that. I wish I was raised the same exact way, and I hope I raised my kids the same exact way, because out of all of my family, meaning me, my brothers, things like that, we're all a little bit different, and we're all not perfect. But when it comes to being level-headed, strong-willed black men in America, we all have a same frame of mind, and that comes from being raised by my parents and my dad and everything. And the reason why I'm talking about all of this, because like I said, we're going to be talking about mental illness and stuff like that, is to kind of bring it all back home before I start rambling on everywhere. My dad, like I said, everything was like a psychological, not necessarily game with him, but it was a psychological experiment to basically get us to think about what we're doing. That's number one. Why we're doing it. That's number two. And basically 3 was to think about the consequences of what that action is. So everything is about consequences and your reasons for doing things. Like as kids, me and my brother, I was always the good, kid in my family, so to speak. I'm always super responsible and everything like that. I'll touch into more of that a little bit later. But my older brother, he was I'm not gonna say he was the fuck up of the family, because my family, didn't have no fuck ups like that. But he was like that person who would always get into trouble because he never knew when to rein it in. Where like his attitude wasn't necessarily like 100% all the time. But he would always do things that he wasn't supposed to, knowing he wasn't supposed to do them, just to see if like he can get away from it or, get away with it. Things like that. So he would always be the one to start the trouble and then like kind of invite me along to go with it. And at first I don't want to go, but then he talks me into it type thing. So that's the kind of relationship that we had. And so we would both end up getting in trouble for whatever it is. Let's say we go into my father's stuff, like his work tools or something like that, right? Or no, I do you one better. Since we're on the internet, pornography. Let's talk about that there. When we was about 7 or 8, my dad used to run a corner store in Baltimore, and he did like everything out of this corner store. Like my dad probably has like ADD when it comes to what he wants to do and things like that. So he's always been like an entrepreneur. So he had this corner store. Now, instead of just running the corner store, buying food and selling drinks, that kind of sort of thing, his thing was like, all right, I'm gonna sell that. I'm gonna do ice cream. I'm gonna make breakfast in the morning for people. I'm gonna rent videotapes out to people. Like his thing was like making like this one-stop shop in a corner store that does everything. And so me and my brothers, as we were younger, we came across these porno tapes. Now we were like 7, 8 years old, right? We didn't know what the hell a porno was at the time, right? And all we knew was like, why do these boxes have like a gold trim, funny looking box to it? And then you have like, Commando and the Terminator, because this was like, the mid 80s, right? Early to mid 80s. And so that's all we knew what the difference was. So needless to say, my dad would catch us watching these porno tapes, right? And we would just be sitting there watching them, right? And we would try to, or sometimes like a couple times he would catch us and he'd be like, all right, don't go on those tapes again. And he would never really explain to us why, because I mean, like I said, we were 7 and 8. So wasn't really a whole lot of explanation you could do at that point. But what we would always do is we would put the tapes back and then act like, we were just gonna watch it and then like put the tapes back, right? Now in our minds, we were slick. We weren't never gonna get caught. But my dad, being the smart man that he is, knew what we were doing, right? Because we're kids, right? You can't hide anything. Kids are stupid. Think they're smart, but they're stupid. And he caught us because we didn't, rewind the tapes afterwards. Because, tapes don't watch themselves, YouTube, right? So we would get caught for it or get caught for anything we wasn't supposed to be doing, right? And he would always sit us down and have like these psychological talks to us, like, all right, well, why did you do what I didn't tell you to do, right? Now in our mind, we're thinking, well, because we wanted to watch the tapes, right? But that's like your parental guardian. You can't say shit like that as a kid, because you'll get in more trouble. So the thing was, we would always try to think and come up with ways and lies and things that we can tell to get us off, but really it was just basically my dad was asking us certain questions already knowing what the answers are, but the thing is he was asking them to us just to get us to think about what we did, rather than just come out and say, oh, what you're doing is wrong, don't do it, just because I tell you. His whole thing was, let me get them to think about what they're doing so they understand the reasons as far as why they're doing it and why not to do it. And like I said, it all comes down to choices and consequences. And when we were coming up all throughout the years, he would have these little things like that with us with every time we got in trouble, which was a lot, being boys coming up. We was always rowdy or breaking stuff. Like, we broke through brick walls, tons of shit we fucked up as kids. So we had tons of these psychological, I guess, games that he played with us over time. And the thing is that when you're going through, from the kid's perspective, you don't understand why he's doing all this stuff, right? But coming up and coming into my manhood and being an adult, you realize why he's doing that. And we started to understand why he was getting us to make us to think about those kind of things. And basically it's just teaching your kids or teaching somebody else how to understand why they made the decision that they did. And one thing that besides that he taught us was that can apply to basically anything you do in your life, whether that's relationships, priority with your bills, whether that's decisions when it comes to like you getting into a fight with somebody else, letting your emotions get to you. A lot of people in life, whether that be on YouTube in general, friends, family, or in person with just random people you meet, a lot of problems, I can say, are started because people don't know how to react to situations that's thrust upon them. People could say, like my brother, his biggest thing that he had to come to terms with, and that's something you have to do when you have, I'm not going to say like me, I can't say this because I've never really had any weird issues with myself, with being who I am. I think the biggest thing that I've had to come across was, or at least in my life, is social anxiety. Meaning, going outside, talking to strangers, that kind of sort of thing. When I was a kid, my parents saw that because I was always hesitant to leave, and even like simple shit like, oh yeah, go on Royal Farms or 7-Eleven and go get this drink and come out. It was like a wall that's in front of me, and even to this day I still have it. Probably not so much anymore, but it's still there to a certain extent. And but my parents, my mom in particular, I would have to thank for this. She was the kind of strong-willed black woman to just be like, look, get your ass out there, go in that store and get that drink, and kind of forcing me to do it. And by forcing me to confront that about myself, basically just like anything else in life, you doing it over time gets you used to it. So now I can go in the store just fine and not have any problems. That social barrier that I've had is pretty much damn near gone. And since after my mom died a few years ago, I'm in like fuck it mode right now. So I don't give a shit about anything like that. If somebody don't like me, okay, fuck you. I don't care. That's just where I am. I'm like extremely jaded at this point. But that forced me to confront something as I was coming up, and even like when it comes to like girls and stuff like that and dating, I didn't start none of that until later. Like I would say my early 20s. But My brother, he would have different things. Like, he would have not necessarily anger issues like some people have, but he would have issues with aggression. Like with him, over time, he would get aggressive over and over and over and over again, and it would just build up until he would have a fight with somebody, whether that be me, my other brother, or people at school, things like that. That's just the kind of person he was. Then once he got that aggression out, it's like with him, it was like busting an orgasm. You know, it was like that complete mellow, I don't have to think about nothing type thing. That's the kind of person he is. So he has to learn how to deal with that aggression on a daily basis. Most people walk around with something in their life like that. Whether that's emotional issues with like girls being, you know, bipolar or whatever your crutch is in life, because everybody has something. Just like how my parents made me confront what I had to deal with, and my dad would always get us to think, most people, you have to learn how to deal with that. You can't just, you know, be like, oh, that's just the way I am, so that's just it. People say, well, like, somebody's gonna have to accept me for who I am. That's true to a certain extent, but like, one reason why my dad said you can't never let that be the end of it, because you still have to function in society. And one of his things that when he was raising, at least us being black men in America, his whole thing was like teaching us everything we can not to get locked up, or not to get arrested, or not to fall into the trap that a lot of black men fall into. And so his whole thing, that was the reason why, you know, again, bringing it home with the choices and consequences, you know, think about stuff before you do it, and learning how to deal with your problems in a logical way rather than just acting on whatever it is you want to act on. And that's pretty much what you have to deal with in life. Most people, like I said, walk around with something. You have to learn as an individual, you have to understand your faults and then adjust your life around those faults, so that whatever those faults is don't end up becoming something worse down the line, or blowing up in somebody's face, things like that. That's where I think a lot of people have issues and problems with. Is number one, their emotions, because you either never confronted them before, or either you don't know how to deal with whatever it is that's going on, and they just build up until you snap. And everybody has their breaking point. That's why I think a lot of school shootings and stuff happens, because for whatever reason, if they was happy-go-lucky and everything was fine, they wouldn't shoot up the school, you know. Or if everything was happy-go-lucky, people wouldn't be bullying other people, you know, in life and things like that. But it's just that you don't know how to deal with your insecurities, because that's really all it is, or issues, or whatever your mental issue is. People, you don't know how to deal with that, so you just don't, you know, you just have to live your, you know, because obviously you have to live your life and go through it, unless you're somebody with mental illness, or let's say somebody who has like suicidal thoughts and you take your own life. But everybody has to live through something, and you have to learn to adjust. And it's really a managing act. You have to manage your own life. It's basically what it is. You have to take whatever it is that you have in your life, and you can use this to apply to any kind of mental situation, or even YouTube or anything else. Anything you do, anything that's become super stressful or starts to lean in that direction, or things that don't go your way, you have to understand that life is life. Life is going to happen whether you want to or not. You know, regardless of how you feel, what you think others should feel, or what you think you should have versus what you have. Life is gonna bend you over and fuck you sideways, whether you want to it or not. You know, life is the ultimate rapist. And when it comes to a lot of those different things, you have to understand what works for you, meaning what calms you down, what things you like doing that kind of de-stresses you, versus you know, you have to kind of manage that along with whatever it is that's stressing you out or causing you to feel emotional, whether that's being somebody, you know, your significant other cheating on you, because I know some people let that go, you know, they feel like it's like the ultimate fucking offense to them, like they just fucking, you know, stabbed them in the heart or something. But you have to understand that people's gonna be people, and you have to deal with that. You can't just Like I know people personally who'll be like, well, like if my girl ever cheated on me, I just kill the bitch. It's like, no, you can't do that shit. You live in a society with other people. You have to learn to manage that. Like figure out what about that isn't working. It's just like anything else in life. Like I've always been like a logical person, and maybe that's why I'm like that. But like I said, I look at problems and solutions. That's my whole thing in life. I'm a logical person. I'm a very scientific person. My job is doing tech support with computers and shit. So everything is a problem and a solution. If you have a problem, find out what's causing the problem and fix it. So if somebody's feeling emotional or they're getting stressed out because of their situation in life, whatever it is may be, find out what it is and try to fix it. Now, there's going to be a lot in life that you can't fix. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, well, the easiest thing is just to, don't worry about it, fix the problem. No, that's not how life is. Like I said, life will do its best to fuck you sideways. So are a lot of situations where people may be stuck in a particular situation, whatever it is that is. Whether that's your living situation. I know that I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of kids living out there with shitty parents, or parents who have, let's say, have their own vices and issues that they got to deal with, like drunk parents or divorces, things like that may affect their situation and that you can't get away from because they still got to go home and live with their parents or live with whatever the problem is. If you were somebody who was, let's say, getting bullied in school and you're going to school, you still got to go to school. You know what I'm saying? You can't just stop going. So again, there's certain problems that you just have to learn how to deal with. And that's part of life. I mean, it's sad to say that you shouldn't have to go through and deal with that. But what I found, at least what works with me, is I'm a little bit different when it comes to that, because I would assume that I'm a little bit distant emotionally. I assume, but most people, you have to manage that. So you have to find something. If you're stuck in whatever situation it is, instead of feeling stressful about it, I mean, granted, the stress is going to always be there until you leave or stop whatever it is that's going on. But you have to find something in your life that makes you keep going through whatever it is. And you have to try not to let it get to you. Like for me, that out was anime and video games. I've been doing both since I was like 6 or 7 years old, playing Rad Racer, Ghostbusters, and Wizards and Warriors from I'm about to say PlayStation, from regular old school, NES. It's those kind of things where video games has always been my out. Like even at my worst time in life, back in 2015, my mom suddenly just died and just collapsed on the floor, never got back up, out of nowhere. Like no medical issues, no problems whatsoever. Right? She just died on the floor. I called 911, went to the hospital. 2 weeks later, oh, your mom's on life support. We got to pull the plug. That's what it is. That's the reason why I hate November now. I think I was in the middle of playing like a Halo 5 LP, I think I was doing in November back in 2015. And it's just kind of like, that's like the only period during my YouTube channel where I stopped uploading videos for like 3 weeks. And even then, I uploaded a video, like I was mad as shit, but I still kept it moving because at the time I didn't have nothing else. At the time I was out of a job. So it wasn't like I could just be like, oh, well, let me dump myself into work. I was looking for work at the time. As a matter of fact, I just got off of doing a job and I was in between jobs. So I was sitting at home playing video games all day. Granted, which is perfectly confined to me. Like I'm one of those people who like to stay in their room, play video games, and watch anime and movies and talk shit and all that kind of sort of stuff. So I'm a homebody by nature, But if you guys see my setup, I'm pretty sure you guys want to stay in my room too. But anyway, that was like the lowest point for me, because besides dealing with the fact that my mom was dead and gone, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, you have to be an adult now. Because before then, I was living with my mom. It was cool. It was just me and her. I would help her out with bills, and she was getting up there in age, so I didn't feel like, like, oh, you're living with your moms. I felt like it was kind of like we were both living together in the same home. and I was doing my best not to be a burden on her, but at the same time helping her out with stuff that she couldn't do. So it wasn't like it was one of those I'm living in my mom's basement kind of situations. But when she died, it was like, okay, no more income. Luckily, my parents were like, again, they were super knowledgeable. They weren't like smart about like, you know, a lot of situations, but like I said, what they were smart about was just raising us to be men. And besides that, they had both of their lives were fucked up in a lot of different ways. So that taught them how to not raise their kids not to be fucked up. And so when my mom died, that was, like I said, my lowest point. And besides just not knowing what to do, well, I knew what to do because my parents have always taught me what to do. So I'm not going to say I didn't know what to do, but getting to the realization where I have to do it, let me say that. And also coming to terms with my mom's death, because like I said, I was there when it happened. Like, I had to watch all of that. So watching your mom die is something that's hard. And not only it's hard to watch, but for me, one of the things I'm still trying to get over is I always have that thing where it's like, maybe I should have done something a little bit differently. Maybe she might still be here. So I always have that guilt that I deal with day in, day out, right? So like I said, you have to find something in life to keep you going. And for me, during my time, it was just, like I said, I've always been responsible. I've always been the responsible guy in my family. I'm super smart, always been super responsible, always been honest. One thing, like my faults, like I said about earlier, about realizing your faults, my biggest fault in life is not being how I am or who I am. It's, I should always take my own advice. I never take my own advice. I'm a fat, chubby guy who should be working out and losing weight. And when I was coming up in school, school to me was boring because I was already smart. I didn't need school to educate me to be smart. So school was boring. So I was the kind of person who like never did their homework, always failed. I never applied myself in school, either whether that's high school, college, whatever, right? So, that's why I don't have like right now, I don't have any like college degrees or nothing like that or anything like that. But I don't let that keep me down job wise, because that's why I like doing tech support, because that's like my thing. For a lot of that stuff, you don't need degrees. It's just experience that you might need. Degrees comes later in life. But anyway, to get back on topic of what I was saying, during my lowest point, like I said, I've always been the responsible person. So for me, what kept me moving in my darkest period was work, being responsible, paying bills, finding ways to pay bills. Luckily my parents put me in a good position to where that's not that big of a problem like most people. Cause my family already owned the house we was living in. I don't have to pay rent. So I just have to maintain what I have, so a lot of kids and a lot of people don't have those options. But the same thing still applies. You have to find something, whatever it is your situation is. If it's stressful, you're being bullied in school, you're having weird mental issues, and you're watching my video here and you don't know what to do, and you can't, let's say, beat up your bully, or you can't get out of your living situation, or whatever it is, find a way to struggle through it. Find something in life that you can latch onto. Whether that's another friend, somebody you can talk to, video games, working out, movies, anime, hell, even writing. Write your own fucking fan fiction or book. Find something in life that you can dump your creativity into, or your knowledge into, or something that can take your mind away from whatever the situation is. And find something that works. I don't mean just try to find something and you don't, you don't find anything, so you don't do nothing else with it. No, try a bunch of different shit. Find something until you have that one thing in life that works. That kind of pulls you out of your situation a little bit long enough for you to kind of recharge your batteries to keep it pushing. Because once you keep it pushing, because like I said, if you're stuck in that situation, you don't have no choice, YouTube. So you have to suffer through that until you can get out of that situation and then move on with your life. And then you can distance yourself from whatever it is that's causing those problems for you. And like I said, it's not hard to understand. Life is If anything, life is super simple, but find out what works for you and make it work. Suffer through whatever it is, then either distance yourself from life's problems or overcome those problems. And a lot of times those problems can be you. So I'm not going to get in here and explain that oh, it's all other people's problems. No, sometimes that problem can be you. If you have a lot of people in your life that's treating you like shit, or you have a lot of people who always like look down on you, or you have a lot of people who always just don't think you're a good person, then chances are you're probably not, because all of those people, they probably can't be wrong. Yeah, a few of them might be wrong, but it's not all of them. And a lot of times, people who have those issues like that are just shitty people. And like, one thing I do in life when it comes to shitty people, like if I meet somebody, whether that be a girl, a friend, something like that, I'm probably the most nicest, honest person in the room. That's just the kind of person I am. And when I meet somebody, and let's say if I get the vibe that somebody is either using me for something or something like that, I'll let it slide for the first couple times. You know, I have to establish a baseline of their fuckery. And then that third or fourth time, that's when I'm like, okay, that's when I know, like, all right, this person is just using me for A, B, or C. And that's when I'll either break contact with that person, if they're a friend, or I've distanced myself from that person and just and won't deal with them again. That's just, you know, the easiest way to do it. And a lot of times you have to do that with certain people in your life, because if certain people are bringing you down mentally, physically, or emotionally, you have to cut them off so that you can suffer through whatever it is you're going through and then overcome whatever it is you're going through. Or, like I said, keep it pushing one way or the other, because you have to push forward and keep going in life. Because like I said, life don't stop. Life is going to do its best. Hell, life is going to do more best. Like I said, it's going to fuck you sideways. So more than often than not, as you're going through whatever it is your problems are, whether that's money, emotions, relationships, whatever, life is going to be dumping more bullshit on top of you. So it's not going to stop. If anything, the longer you go in life, the harder life gets. It's not easy. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, like I said, unless you're like suicidal and something like that, because that's something a little bit I don't have no knowledge of. I've only had one family relative who committed suicide, and I grew up with that person, but it's kind of hard to understand where they were coming from in their adult life, since they were outside of my immediate family. So that's kind of something that I can't give any life experience on. I really can't. I would just say, if you're somebody like that, let's say if you tried all the things I'm telling you guys to try in this video, and let's say none of that's working, then I would say reach out, get some help. Do not just sit there and live with the disappointment and the stress in your life, because like I said earlier on in this commentary, everybody has their breaking point. Whether that's you flipping out on somebody or committing a violent crime, whether you're a man dealing with your relationships and you end up beating your wife, or vice versa, because it's, you know, 2018, or whether that's other people not dealing with, you know, your sexuality or your sexual preferences, whatever, you know, it may be in your life. If you feel like you can't find an out, or if you feel like you can't find a reason or something to get your mind, you know, off of your stressors in life, and you feel like you can't go nowhere, reach out. They got support lines, you know, for this kind of sort of thing. Reach out, talk to somebody. You can't just sit there and just bottle it up. Yeah, bottle it up. There we go. Let me actually talk like I actually went to school, YouTube. Let me apply myself in my language here. But like I said, you have to talk to somebody. Reach out, establish a dialogue, just like drug addicts and alcoholics and stuff do. Talking does help to a point. So if, you know, reach out to one of those support lines, call those helps. You have them in every major city. I don't know of anybody, like I said, I don't know of anybody who had to call those, so I don't have those numbers, but do a Google search, find somebody. They have them everywhere, in hospitals, every major city, probably where everybody lives at, in the first world, I would say. But find somebody to talk to, reach out, and at least maybe that might get you started in the right direction to push forward and try to get things done a little bit. Because like I said, life isn't going to stop. So if you're in that kind of position, I know I was in that kind of position when my mom died, and a couple other times in my life, but that's when it was real bad, where it's like, you don't know what to do. You're just sitting in your room all day, not doing nothing. And it's like a personal prison. You're putting yourself in like a mental prison. And, you know, you have to be like that white guy in Shawshank Redemption and, you know, climb your way through the shit pools to get out. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, that's the best analogy I can come up with. Because life is going to dump more shit on you, and you have to be that kind of sort of person to find your way through life, whatever it is that may be. And that's what I think, you know, to tie it all together, since I know we're like, damn near 35 minutes in, I cannot make a short commentary to save my life, YouTube. But to tie it all back home, that's pretty much what I think most people's issues are. Most people, they go through life and they don't know how to, I'm not going to say deal with the problems, because they know how to deal with them. You solve your problems. But they don't know how to deal with themselves or deal with something in their life that's causing those situations to happen. And most of the time, if people did or could deal with those problems, they would be better off. But like I said before, there's some times when you can't. And when you can't deal with that, you know, or deal with your stressors, you have to find something to hold on to, and something that can carry you through, you know, carry you through whatever it is going on until you can either break away from it, get away from it, or if it's your living situation, until you can move out and be self-sufficient on your own. So when you can be like, fuck it, I can do my own thing now. I don't need nobody. You know, you have to struggle in some way to keep life moving forward. Because I mean, you can't stop. The moment you stop, that's when you die. Honestly, it can't get no more realer than that. But anyways, guys, that's just some of my thoughts on, you know, life experiences and mental illness. I guess, you know, people's problems. I don't know what I'm gonna title this video, but if you guys have any questions or any comments or anything that you guys want to, you know, say down in the comments below, or just let me know what you think about the commentary in general. Let me know down there. And my name is Denonu, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.